Welcome to Storytime at the Rubus, a weekly podcast where we talk about Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival. I'm your host, Sharla.
Hey, I'm Daniel. What's going on this week, Charles?
Well, a lot of stuff about Music Midtown.
Yeah, I know. I think that's the big talk in kind of like the live music world the past couple of days, probably this week, because, man, that was a bomb dropped on everybody. I don't think too many people saw it coming. We were in Atlanta the other day. We went to a Braves baseball game and some other stuff, and I had just happened to see a tweet from an Atlanta reporter that I had on a Braves list on Twitter that said that, hey, this is probably happening. And I was like, what? This is crazy. But then I got to reading more about it, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be bad. So I guess everybody had seen the news. Do you want to kind of just tell them briefly what the deal was?
Well, basically, Music Midtown had to be called off.
Canceled. I mean, yeah. That's so sad because they tried to have it 3 years, and we're supposed to have My Chemical Romance. And it was just never meant to be, I suppose.
But the reason they had to call it off was not because of COVID or anything like that. It was because of the open carry lawsuit and some open carry laws in Georgia. You can read all about it. I'm sure you guys, if you're listening to this podcast, you've already heard about it, most likely. But we've got a really cool guest here to explain more about it, to talk more about it.
Yeah, so Sharla and I probably aren't the best qualified. Well, there is no probably to it. We just aren't the best qualified for this kind of thing. So we asked around on Instagram and Twitter. We wanted to get somebody that is a festival goer and a lawyer. And, well, it turns out we got one. We got an amazing guy. His name is Frank. He's out of Chicago. He just went to Lollapalooza this past weekend. He was at Rue this year. He loves Goose. We got him on, so we're going to start out with that and get the best explanation that we can from him. Should we go ahead and kick it to Frank?
Yes.
Hey, everybody, we're back. We're with a fellow Bonnaroovian, Frank, who can tell us a little bit about this. Frank, can you tell us where you're from, how many Bonnaroos you've been to, and kind of what you do at the day job?
Yeah. Hey, guys. It's good to talk to you today. My name's Frank. I'm from Chicago. I've been to the last 7 Bonnaroos. Been going since our sophomore year in college in 2014 and haven't missed one yet. For in the law, what I do when I'm not, jetting across the country to go to festivals. I do mostly construction law and some liability defense stuff, but I've kind of practiced in a few different areas, including insurance coverage, which certainly has a big part in the Music Midtown story. So I think should be able to help give you guys a little, as much as I can, a little explanation of what's going on from my point of view.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad that you're here because, me and Charlotte can talk about what happened, but
sure,
we don't know a lot about the actual law side of things, and that's why we wanted to have you on. So, just to refresh, just give everybody a heads up on what has happened. We'll have some other recorded parts of the podcast episode. But basically, Music Midtown had to shut down because they were going to have an open carry thing forced upon them. Frank, I know you've been following it. Do you want to perhaps get a better explanation than I am here?
Sure. So in as simple terms as I can make it for everybody here, Music Midtown is held via a public permit in downtown Atlanta, or I think it's downtown Atlanta.
Yeah.
And so with that permit, they're subject to the same laws as the state. And Georgia has passed laws in the last decade that basically have allowed open carry and concealed carry wherever you see fit that's on public property. In around 2014, from what I read, an activist sued a botanical center in Atlanta saying they would not let me in with my weapon. And that case slowly worked its way through the Georgia Supreme Court until recently he lost. But the court had kind of an interesting reasoning that because the city or state had leased to this botanical center for 50 years, it had created a semi-private estate, so they did have the ability to restrict some open firearm carrying and things like that. Now, Music Midtown and other festivals in Atlanta will get these temporary permits because they only need the park for a week or 2 weeks to get set up. The court held that they do not have that same power. So in these last few weeks, what it appears to be is they've realized that they will no longer have the power to make any sort of restrictions on firearms. And that certainly kicks in a lot of, legal considerations for Live Nation and the businesses who own the company. From number one, from what I used to do, an insurance coverage part of it. These festivals have these massive policies with huge limits, very similar to like your auto insurance policy, and actually they'll look pretty similar, except this will be 1,000 pages. That will exclude, coverage for things like firearms and things like that. And you don't want to think about the worst that could happen, but if something like that comes down the pipe later on and Live Nation's on the hook, it could be, disastrous to the entire company.
Unfortunately, it's something that we have to think about because, it wasn't technically on the festival grounds, but a very scary, similar situation happened in Vegas. What was it, about 4 years ago now at that country festival that was in a big parking lot?
Sure. And I mean, that's MGM is going through, the massive lawsuits with that. And so is the company who's gotten, or who would put on the festival, and just some of the work I used to do would be for these really large entertainment corporations, and you would go through and kind of review losses, let's say at Disney Park or anything related to Disney, whether it's movies or large executives. You're going to look at what they've done, and you're going to look at the policies. So they had business decisions to make about what they can and can't sustain from a risk point of view, but then also they're much more rare, but artists have been attacked and shot on stage. And many of them have writers that they're not going to perform in places like this. So I'm sure, Live Nation was also left to kind of think, we're going to lose half of our artists if we continue like this. And so from what I read, through Reddit and other, more official, deeper level stories, is that they really tried in the last couple of weeks to look for a new venue on a private property where they can have any restriction they want.
Yeah.
And they just failed and ran out of time. And I know some people will have conspiracy theories like they did with Bonnaroo with the hurricane, that, the festival just wasn't selling well and they're going to use that. But there are so many considerations for the business here. Like, the worst comes to worst, it could bankrupt Live Nation and things like that. And they have a duty not to go forward. So I can't, tell you exactly what they're thinking, but it has certainly made sense to me from my experience.
Now, you hit on something there that I think is a big factor. It makes a big difference if a festival like this is held on public land versus private land. Can you tell a little bit about that?
Sure. So, the federal government, the U.S. Constitution tells you what the government can do. So the U.S. Constitution and the state constitution governs that. But then on a more micro level, states can pass laws that expand rights, like the right to carry and things like that. And if you think about it like, discrimination laws, if you open yourselves to the public, you have to accept the entire public. And you cannot discriminate based on a protected class. So gun owners are not a protected class, but they have protected rights. So you can discriminate on private property against gun openers as long as you comply with Georgia law. And right now, I believe there are some exceptions for private property to make those type of determinations, because, even, wherever you fall in the gun spectrum, alcohol, drugs, and hot, angry people, they don't mix great with guns.
Yeah.
And so, as long as it's on public property, it's a lot like how we finance our schools. If you take the state's money or the federal government's money, then you're subject to a whole host of more federal regulations and safeguards. So, in these bigger cities like Lollapalooza and really any city festival that rents its grounds, that makes the festival its own, instead of putting it out in a sanitized area outside of town. It is concerning that this is now going to be a target for some southern states, and wherever gun rights owners determine that they want to go after these things, because they are subject to public regulation. And the thing is, this activist who has sued the Botanical Center and then wrote this letter to Music Midtown, he would be completely correct in his lawsuit that they were violating Georgia law. So, Music Midtown is in this kind of unmanageable position where not only do they face, this huge liability, but the litigation costs and things like that. They just, I think it made sense to say, we just can't do it this year. We're going to try to figure something else out.
Yeah, it really is like a Kobayashi Maru from Star Trek. It's a no-win scenario.
So how do you think that this would impact Bonnaroo, or do you think it ever would?
Well, so, I mean, to me, it can impact any state where they have a similar open carry law. I'm from Iowa. They just passed a pretty much uniform, no background check. I think they're going for concealed carry anywhere. If Tennessee decides to do that, and their constitution is similar to Georgia's, and Bonnaroo, I know that they bought the farm, so I don't think they would be in the same level of concern.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Tennessee, it's their prerogative to even, sometimes extend their hands into private property as well. So it really just depends on how far some people want to take this. And it's, I mean, with a lot of things in politics right now, we're kind of in an unknown
Mm-hmm.
area. But I think the much bigger concern would be city festivals on city park land, and the ramifications of not just we won't have music, but it's very bad for city budgets and the amount of money they make from that. So
it is kind of a scary proposition because I can think of a lot of city festivals. Like they just announced Live on the Green in Nashville. It's this free concert series. It's basically a festival, and it is in a public park that's in front of the courthouse in downtown Nashville. Sharla and I have been to that a few times, and they didn't have very thorough security there, as far as I can remember. Do you?
I don't think they,
Because it's on the public land. Yeah. So I mean, this does open up a giant can of worms. It seems like.
Yes, and I think Bonnaroo. I don't know everything about their situation, but there is sort of a public-private partnership. But Bonnaroo purchasing the farm, has kind of insulated them while they're still subject to laws that are passed by the county or ordinances that are passed by the county and laws that are passed by the state. I think they do have more leeway to have their restrictions that they want.
And I know that the city and county hasn't been on exactly the most friendliest terms in the past year or whatever, but it's definitely within their interest to make sure that Bonnaroo doesn't run into this same problem that Music Midtown just had, because they would instantly lose all that tax revenue. Because if people could open carry on Bonnaroo, the same thing would happen. I imagine a bunch of artists are going to be like, "Nope, not doing that."
Yep. And I think also a thing to remember here is this isn't the Georgia government attacking Music Midtown or Live Nation or Atlanta as a city. It's kind of one person taking advantage of a campaign. I think he calls it GA2A or something like that.
Yeah.
So he's kind of been an activist. So if you're up to if the Georgia legislature decided, or the Tennessee legislature decided to do something like this, and somebody wanted to test it, he's kind of a professional litigant. So this is what he does to places like Music Midtown.
Yeah.
If somebody like that in Tennessee wanted to do that, we'd have to see kind of what happens. But it's I would say it's until where Tennessee's laws are at, or any other state, it's hard. I wouldn't be fretting quite yet. But certainly, if you're in Georgia, this is not a great development for music.
Yeah, well, it's good to hear that we can rest pretty easy when it comes to Bonnaroo. But I know we got a lot of friends in Georgia that are pretty mad about this, because I know a lot of people were looking forward to seeing MCR at Music Midtown for like 3 years now, man. I feel terrible for those people.
They can come to Riot Fest in Chicago. I'll be there.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, on a more positive note, tell us what were some of your favorites at Rue this year? What did you like at Lollapalooza this year?
So for Bonnaroo, Goose is my favorite band. So Goose was pretty amazing for me late night.
We were there,
the 8th time I saw him in a calendar year since I saw him for the first time last
year.
year.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I think you get to meet the band at this point. You've filled out all the holes in your punch card.
Well, I met the pianist at the after show in Denver last July, and I met Ben, the drummer, at Femi Kuti this year at Bonnaroo. So
that's so cool.
Marking him off the list. But other than that, really loved Closey, Stevie Nicks, Billy Strings. We were in the pit for. That was pretty cool. And then War on Drugs with that Cotton Candy Sunset was pretty amazing.
That's funny, man. You and I probably crossed paths. I was hanging with some of the guys from Flip Turn at that War on Drugs show. That was so fun.
Oh man, I just saw Flip Turn on Friday at Lollapalooza. They blew me away. I hadn't really gotten into them yet, and I thought it was unbelievable.
Did they have a big crowd?
It was a pretty big crowd. So Friday was one of the busier days, and it was a real big crowd. Very energetic for like a 2 o'clock in the middle of the sun in a hot Grant Park show, but everybody was real into it. Other than that, Dua Lipa was unbelievable. Metallica was really cool.
I saw that clip where they had Eddie from Stranger Things. They showed the clip during Master of Puppets. That looked so fun.
Yeah, it was quite the time. Obviously, Lollapalooza, it's a lot of younger people, a lot of people who aren't as initiated. There's not the level of entry as going to Bonnaroo, and you kind of have to. There's a certain vibe, but when they have good music going, it feels just the same. So it was another good year at Lollapalooza, and I'm hoping they can get the lineup back up, just like Bonnaroo for next year, because I think both have kind of struggled with everybody else at getting the kind of the right mix that we're used to seeing at the macro festivals.
Well, it's just a little tough to book nowadays, but you're going to enjoy a good lineup over at Riot Fest. Tell Chloe we said hello. You'll run into her. Yeah. But listen, Frank, thanks so much for helping us understand this better. Is there anything in particular you want to plug while you're on? Anything cool you want to recommend in Chicago?
Nothing really cool. I just listen to Goose. That's all I can say.
All right, good man. You're a good fan. Well, listen, Frank, I really appreciate it. I think I understand this a little bit better now. I hope everybody listening to this does too. I know who to call if I need some law advice from now on. So I really appreciate you, man.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
You too, dude.
Thank you so much, Frank. That was a perfect interview, I think.
Yeah, it was. I understand this stuff a lot better now. And I understand apparently we were in a lot of the same shows. I wish we could have seen him at that Goose show.
Right?
Yeah. You don't remember seeing a lawyer from Chicago in that crowd?
I probably did.
You probably did, yeah. Apparently he was parked really near the Rubus, just around the corner, because I know what transformer he was talking about.
Yes.
Yes. That caused the power to go out a couple of times. I was talking with DJ Vinyl about that, and they ran into some issues over kind of near where Pondo was parked and everything. Hey, Charlotte, we're going to get a second perspective on this, too. We're getting a guy who, by his own admission, isn't a lawyer, but he actually knows a thing or two about the firearm stuff and the laws around them. Mm-hmm. Let's get Lindsey on. Hey everybody, we're editing this in. We have a very good friend to the Rubus. It is Bonnaroovian of the Year himself. Lindsey Huffines, what you up to tonight, man?
Man, just got done eating little tacos. I think I'm going to go binge watch some show on Discovery Channel for a little bit tonight, and then get up and maybe do it all over again.
Do it all over again. Oh my goodness. Hey, so I wanted to have you on for this whole conversation that we're having about the Music Midtown thing. You had a wonderful comment. What was it, on Festival or Consequence, one or the other day, about what happened at Music Midtown. Can you tell us a little bit about what you said, kind of what your view was on the whole deal?
Yeah. So to start off, I'm a Second Amendment supporter. So I'm definitely in support of individual citizens properly owning firearms to be able to defend themselves personally and for other uses. So that's just kind of the perspective that I'm coming from.
Yeah.
I guess what I had said on, I think it was Festival Owl, was that even as a supporter of the right to own a firearm for my own personal protection, when it comes to me attending a music festival, that ownership and privately carrying it, concealed or unconcealed, completely goes out the window for me for a couple reasons. Number one is it is against the law to be under the influence of alcohol or anything more entertaining than that, or of drug or of any sort. But it's against the law to be under the influence and have the my carry on my body or my person accessible.
Yeah.
So that right there, if I'm going to a music festival, I'm going there for a reason, to either A, enjoy the band, B, enjoy the atmosphere, B, get rid of the corporate the everyday doldrums that I deal with on a daily basis. So I'm not going to carry it to that. And B, I also don't want to have to worry, if I am carrying it safely and properly. I have seen plenty of people that were high beyond normal limits that I wouldn't want, with the tightness of the crowd, the amount of pickpockets there are these days, someone to feel me up, find what I have, and take it from me. I just don't think that's something that should happen in a music festival. Plus all the other craziness that goes on. So I do feel that a festival that it's a private company holding a private event, even on public ground, I believe they should have the opportunity to control the environment in such a way that you don't have a weapon on people. Even business establishments, they have the right to say, hey, you can't carry in here, and I have the right to either to walk away and refuse to go in, or to comply with that private business owner's request and not carry in that event.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I love that perspective, and I do appreciate getting that from somebody that knows a thing or two about firearms, because I don't. And in fact, full disclosure, last time we were at the other farm, you were kind of teaching us a little bit. You had some of your small things. We were doing a little bit of target practice, and I am not a gun guy. I do not own a gun. I don't want to. But if it's just kind of like from that perspective, just like, hey, hit the Coke can, I'm going to teach you how to do it safely. I'm like, hey, you know what? That's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, well, and that was part of the thing when we were out there is while I do keep things nice and secure when it's time to have fun, I want all of my friends, whether you want to own one or not, just to have the respect for what it is, to know how to handle it, just in case you find yourself in a situation where there's one present, you need to do something with it, or you know how to safely remove that type of item from a bad situation. So that was part of my intent for that.
Yeah.
Now, from what I read, and I just did a little quick looking through, the Georgia law allows it for carrying in state parks, and there's a particular gentleman who's been suing to have the right to carry it in a different environment that's on a public space.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
The suit was with a botanical garden.
Exactly.
And that garden had a long-term lease on that public space, allowing them to build structures and things like that. And the right for them to bar a weapon from entry was upheld by the courts there. And so, but there's nothing in the law that deals with the short-term leases. So in my mind, I think that an organization like Live Nation, or anybody putting on a festival that's going to be in a public space, should work to create a local state law that can allow them to have and secure a private event that can, to where there still is the uninfringement of the right to carry the firearm, except at a private location. And I know a lot of government buildings, it's not allowed either, right? So.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing in Atlanta, because the location that they were going to have Music Midtown on is a public park. I think that would probably apply to Shaky Knees. We've been to that before. It's like on a baseball field and such in a public park, kind of on the other part of Atlanta. And we talked to Frank, the lawyer out of Chicago, earlier, and we did a little reading on this too. Like, some of those places are looking into securing private locations where they can get around that and not have to worry about that. They could put in those, well, not laws. It's not laws when you have an event, but basically rules, whatever you want to call it. It says, no, you can't do that. Somebody had a comment replying to a Rubus tweet the other day saying that they came in through the entrance and they found where people had been confiscated, the security had been confiscating weapons that people were bringing in. Because just like you were talking about, you don't want people to bring that in. It makes no sense to have an event like that where people are drunk and otherwise, where you can legally have a drink and have a firearm. Like you said, that's not a good idea.
Yeah, no, I agree. But then you also have to look at the aspect of potentially where that event is held. Me personally, I've had times where I have not felt safe walking downtown Nashville, walking downtown Chattanooga, walking downtown Atlanta, even when I was with the kids for a swim meet event.
Yeah.
And yes, at those times I was probably carrying, but I made sure that I did it in a legal fashion.
Yeah.
For me, if I was attending Music Midtown, and I personally have never been to Music Midtown. The only city festival I've really done is Moon River in Chattanooga, which is one of my favorites to go to.
Hey, we'll see you there, by the way.
Yeah, sweet. But for me to feel, to carry my protection, I have to carry it from my vehicle to the gates, but then at the gates I can't have it. So then that forces me to not carry it at all. No, I'm not going to leave it just locked in my truck. I don't think that's safe necessarily. But so it's a tough fence for someone like me. I personally would just choose to not carry it, make sure I'm always aware of my surroundings, for my own personal safety, and move on from there. And I think that's what any festival attendee should do. Once you're inside the festival, it's the festival's responsibility to take care of me, to make sure that I'm in a safe environment, and then to make sure that no one else is coming in to provide harm to anybody, especially in the wake of what happened in Las Vegas several years ago. While that wasn't on the festival grounds, I think they still have a responsibility to keep everybody safe. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, Lindsey, you have a very good perspective on these things, and I appreciate you being so reasonable about it. I mean, I know that, in the festival crowd, you have varying political opinions on these type of things, and we try not to get into that very much. But I know yours is maybe not on the same plateau as everybody else's, but I appreciate you, being cool about it and have, a very reasonable approach to this. We respect the hell out of you, and we love the hell out of you, man.
Well, Daniel, I think that's one of the reasons why we've been good friends is we know that we've had some good political discussions where we've sat down and actually listened and tried to understand each other's beliefs and political sway. And I think and this is sort of a broader thing, but I think where we really, as a society or as a nation right now, get into trouble with each other and start to want to hate each other is we don't take the time to sit down, maybe crack a beer, and just talk and and understand what our fellow friends feel and believe, and many times just agree to disagree versus trying to shove our beliefs down the other person's throat.
Absolutely, I think that is good advice for any side of the spectrum. Very, very well said. Well, Lindsey, thank you so much for giving us another perspective on this. We appreciate it. Mm-hmm. And hey, I don't think I had told you this, but like I said, we'll be with you at Moon River. Are you going to be minding the bar there again?
Yeah, I will be slinging drinks at the VIP tent there at Moon River and having a good time at it. And then, of course, I'll be able to get to go out and hang out and have a good time.
I was going to say, if you're minding the VIP bar, we might not see you, but you'll have to sneak out and come out with us. You'll have to go with Sharla over to Zach Bryan.
Yes.
Oh, we are there, sister, for sure.
I'm going to stick around and see the National that night, too. Go to that with me.
Yeah, I think I may actually drive the camper down and just stay close by.
Oh, for real? That's a good idea. Well, good. We can come party with you afterwards then.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, dude. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
All right. See you guys.
See you, man.
Bye.
So thank you so much, Lindsey, for that perspective. That was also really good.
Yeah, Lindsey is very good to make sure that even though you have different opinions, you make sure that you're still going to crack a beer and be BFFs at the end of the day.
Exactly.
He's the best Lindsey, at that. Yeah. That's kind of one reason that he is Bonnaroovian of the Year.
Right.
Yeah, if you didn't realize it, that's the same Lindsey.
Bonnaroovian of the Year.
Yeah. So, Sharla, we've heard some good perspectives about this thing. I know you have a little bit of experience with law stuff a little bit. You got something that you want to say about these kind of things?
Well, I have a lot of experience. I have more experience with social media than I have with law.
Ah, okay.
I have worked in social media for the majority of my career. And currently I'm a moderator on the Bonnaroo Reddit.
Yeah.
And I will say this first and foremost. People be wild.
What do you mean by that?
You should see. I mean, just throughout my years and years and years of doing social media, people in the world are just absolutely wild beyond what you could ever imagine.
I believe the technical or legal term is batshit. That's the way I understand it.
Literally, one of my jobs in a previous career was to literally moderate social media for commentary, on a brand. And some of the things that people post online, you don't want these people bringing guns into a festival.
Oh, boy. Yeah. I mean, I don't even think that's a political statement. That's just like a safety statement.
Right. I mean, one of the things I did for a previous career is I had to monitor, our social media for safety aspects. And some of the things that people post, you really don't want to see these people bringing guns in, truly. Now,
wasn't there a situation kind of similar to what you're talking about a couple of years ago at Bonnaroo? Something came up on the loophole to reality.
There was, and I think it was 2019. It may have been 18, so forgive me if I get the year wrong.
I remember a little of this.
There was someone who made an active threat on the loophole to reality group, so much that I don't know if it was the admins, I don't know, but they had to actually contact Bonnaroo. And I don't know if the police got involved, but I know they had to actively contact Bonnaroo.
Yeah.
And make the Bonnaroo staff aware of this person because they were out there, making threats. And, obviously nothing came of it. Obviously nothing happened. And if these people are willing to say these things out loud and online, think about the people who are out there not saying stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be careful what I say about this because I don't want to get into legal territory or whatever, but there was a lot of conversation on the Music Midtown Reddit this past week in which some of the involved parties were saying a lot of things, and I feel like it made a lot of people uncomfortable. I don't want to comment on it too much further than that, but yeah.
Exactly.
It's a crazy world we're living in right now, and unfortunately, Music Midtown had to side with the option that was the most safe. It sucks that meant that they had to call off the whole event, basically because of one person. That's insane if you think about it. And it really sucks that so many people were waiting years to go to this, to go see My Chemical Romance, and now that's not going to happen because of this. Oh, it's such a mess. I'm glad that we got Frank on to help us understand it better. I feel like, bottom line, for most people listening to this that are Bonnaroovians, if you're thinking about how this might affect Bonnaroo, the short version of the story is it doesn't really right now because Bonnaroo is on private property. That's not to say that something crazy won't happen in Tennessee, like Frank was talking about. But for the foreseeable future, we don't have to worry about this. And I think a lot of that has to do with it being on private property. And I don't pretend to know everything about this, but since it's been annexed into the city now has an interest in making sure that it's a safe event and one that will be well attended and one that will have entertainment options in which bands and acts feel safe being there. For kind of the reasons that we talked about with both Frank and Lindsey today, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
Yeah.
I think both of them did a really good job explaining everything.
Anything else from you on this, Sharla?
No.
No? Okay. I think I have said my piece on it. The thing that sucks the most is people don't get to go, and they had the rug pulled out from under them with just a week to go. But I feel like most of these, like Live Nation and some of these other places that are putting on these big festivals are going to kind of work around the problem in the coming year. Like, they're probably going to move to private venues. Maybe in Atlanta, I would say from my perspective, it's more likely that they move to like private locations outside of Atlanta where they can rent out some farmland or whatever and have it private. There's some other events that happen in Georgia like that. What's the big EDM festival? Imagine. It's on private property, if I recall correctly. Same thing goes for Okeechobee down in Florida. There's more I want to say, but we don't get political on this. So fill in the blanks for yourself. You probably already know what I'm thinking about this. Charlotte, do you want to move on and thank our Patreons?
Yes, I do.
As is custom, I will let you go through the list, and then I'll talk a little bit more about it.
Okay, absolutely. We've got Perry, Preston, a.k.a. Presto, Nick, Maddie, Sean, McFerg, Andrew, William, John, Captain Dan, Lucy, Benjamin, Ross, Kent, Michael, Randy, Joshua, Madison, Scott, Greg, Eric and Ben, Natalie, Beyond the Hypnotic, Evan, Jay, Chloe, and Sean.
Yeah, Jace, I was thinking about you earlier when I put in that little reference about the whole ordeal being a Kobayashi Maru. He'll know what I'm talking about. Charlotte does kind of too, yeah. But thanks, everybody. You can find more information at patreon.com/Rubus. For the next month or so, it is helping us with our Burning Man project, where we're trying to bring a little bit of Bonnaroo to Burning Man. I'll tell you about that in a moment. But after we get done with that, 80% of everything will go to the Bonnaroo Works Fund. And the remaining 20%, we'll figure that out. We'll let the Patreons decide next year, just like they did this year, as to what kind of goodies or whatever they want to do at our next Rubus party at Bonnaroo next year, Bonnaroo 23. Anyway, again, that is patreon.com/Rubus. And for our Burning Man project, I think we're going to buy the materials that we need this week and put together our little mini arch and kind of put some signage together. So we're going to bring some positivity to Burning Man, where people are bit more crusty and maybe a little cynical over there, but we're going to see what we can do to change that.
I'm very nervous about Burning Man.
Oh boy, I am, but in a good way.
No, I'm super nervous.
Well, I am, because it's something new that we haven't done before. I don't really fully know what the community and the vibe is going to be like. I know the art and like the location and so many things about it is going to be amazing. I know we're going to meet a lot of cool people, but I'm still a little apprehensive.
So Daniel and I are Burning Man virgins is what they're called. Whereas a Bonnaroo newbie would be called a rookie. At Burning Man, you're called a virgin. And so we're Burning Man virgins.
Ready to pop it.
So the only other people that we know that does Burning Man is Derek, that does Camp Bonnaroo, and his partner, Jeffrey.
They've given us some good tips.
And they were so sweet. They actually reached out to us the other night, Jeffrey did, and messaged us and was like, do you have everything you need? How is packing going? How is preparing going?
I was like, I don't even know what questions to ask.
And I was like, I don't even know. And they did have a very good tip that we would not have thought about. They were saying, bring an extra air filter for your car.
Oh, yes, because of the dust.
Because that's how dusty it actually gets at Burning Man.
I wouldn't have thought of that.
And I would never in a million years have thought about that.
Ooh,
which
goodness.
is just so wild.
You know, while we're on it, we got something else we're going to get to in a moment. But since we're talking about Burning Man anyway, how's our preparations going? Are you ready?
I mean...
Okay, we have all the camping stuff that we need. Maybe a small thing or two, but we've gotten like desert-rated tent stakes for everything. We've gotten a new canopy that will allow for like the desert winds. We've got some extra stuff for our tent. Other than that, I feel like Bonnaroo has pretty much prepared us. I know veteran burners probably would disagree a little bit, but I feel pretty comfortable. Like, I feel like I've adapted all the stuff that we usually use. I know how to rough it, you know. The big thing that made me feel comfortable about going to Burning Man was learning that they actually have porta potties and you don't have to, like, store your waste.
Poop?
Yeah. It's not like being on an Apollo capsule back in the day. You don't have to store it.
You know, it's so funny because, like, this year at Bonnaroo, we thought our friend JoJo, we thought, oh, he's not going to like camping. He's going to hate this. Da, da, da. And, like, on the way out, we were, like, looking at ground scores. And I said, oh, don't touch that cat litter. People poop in that. And he goes, that's genius.
That's a great idea. I wonder if they had to do that at Burning Man before. I don't know, whatever. Oh, goodness. We've got 3 weeks to go, so we'll have more to talk about that. By the way, two things real quick. If you got any requests, if there's like some kind of Bonnaroo project that you want us to help you with at Burning Man, if you want us to send you a postcard, you got any crazy ideas like that, hit us up. We'll see if we can help you out with that.
So we will be doing... Did you want to go ahead and talk about Burning Man now? Or you want to?
Yeah, let's go ahead. We're already so deep into it.
Okay. So... we're going to be doing solo camping at Burning Man.
Oh, yeah. We were interested in possibly finding a group, but, like, we just never could really make the right connections. So me and Sharla was like, you know what? I think we got this.
Well, one of the main reasons we decided to do solo camping is because when you do a group, you have to pay to do a group, just kind of like you do at Bonnaroo.
Yeah.
And you're paying because they have to buy all their supplies. Like they buy a shade structure and they buy shower supplies.
Like a ton of stuff like that.
Etc. Well, me and Daniel already have all that stuff because we have
All
a
of
shade structure.
Bonnaroo stuff.
We already have all that stuff from Bonnaroo. So we really didn't see the need to pay extra for that.
No, I still want to ride around and go see all these group
obviously.
camps and meet everybody and see what they're up to.
We actually had an interview with a group, and
out of France.
The cost was just going to be
like $400 a person.
It was going to be a little bit too much for us. So we just decided to do solo camping.
Yeah. But we should help people understand, though, like group camping at Burning Man is a little bit of a different concept than it is at Bonnaroo. Like at Bonnaroo, you've got like, what is it? Maybe like 5 to 10% of the whole campgrounds that's dedicated for group camping. And maybe they have a little bit of a different theme. You've got Routine Clan and Camp Red-a-Roo and trying to go to bed and stuff like that. But the vast, vast majority, like 95% of Burning Man, is group camping. And it's grouped in a different way. Like each group is trying to do something different. Maybe you've got one that's a spa, another one that's a bar. There's one that is the Thunderdome. I can't wait to go to the Thunderdome. Each of them have different events or different features. Some of them are pretty far out there, if you know what I'm talking about. We'll report back.
Well, also, I think with it being our first year, we kind of wanted to just experience it and see what it's like.
Yeah. Now, everybody's expected to contribute. That's kind of why we want to do our Bonnaroo project, right? And kind of spread some positivity there.
We could be doing this way wrong. We have no idea.
We don't know. We will.
We'll report back.
Yeah, we will find out. But yeah, I think Sharla and I are going to try to do like little mini podcasts from the road.
Oh, absolutely.
We will not be able to do it from there because
there's no service.
There will be no service. Maybe there's going to be some good Samaritans with the Starlink satellite.
Yeah, you have to use a satellite phone if you want to get any service.
But we'll probably do some stuff on our socials and maybe put out some mini podcasts on the road there and the road back, just kind of let you know what it is. And by the way, I've mentioned this a few times, but we're doing a big loop. So if you were in our loop, we're trying to take our time and make sure that we got time to stop, not just to eat, but see road attractions and maybe meet some few friends for lunch or dinner or whatever. So visualize this in your mind. We're leaving from Huntsville, Alabama, going through Arkansas, staying the night at my mom's house, kind of near Little Rock, going from there through Oklahoma City, Albuquerque, Flagstaff, Vegas, and then Burning Man, and then coming back, we're going through a lot of Nevada and Utah. We're going to take a slight detour so we can see the cool stuff in Utah everybody's been talking about instead of going through Salt Lake City. And then just outside of Denver, and then Kansas City, and then back home. So if you're anywhere on that kind of route, hit us up. We'd love to see you. We're not taking the bus. Everybody keeps asking that. There is no way.
It would probably make it, but
it's not insulated. That's the main problem. We would die.
Yeah, we'd have a heat stroke.
Yeah. Plus, diesel is, I don't know if y'all seen, but it's $5, $6.
Fuel will be a little expensive right now.
Yeah. It's actually not bad in Charles' little Subaru. But, yeah, still. But anyway, anything else on Burning Man, Charlie?
You wrote down night versus day.
Yeah, I was talking about, I want to get your opinion. This is kind of a discussion for anybody that's ever thought about it. How much are we going to do in the night versus the day? Because, like, night, I feel like we're going to be staying up all night because the temperature will be tolerable. Do you even want to try to do anything during the day?
This is like...
I feel like we can't really decide until we get there and see for ourselves.
Because I'm like... I don't know. I may have to
It's the desert.
I'm going to have to see how my life goes between now and then.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, that's a discussion for another day.
Well, if anybody wants to know, I'll just offline you.
Yeah. There is one other thing I wanted to get in and talk about on the podcast before we get out of here. There was a cool announcement this past week. We are big fans of the Live on the Green concert series in Nashville, and they're finally bringing that back this year.
So it used to be one day a week during the summer. And they've changed it to just be Labor Day weekend. And Live on the Green is a free concert series, or a free festival, really, in Nashville.
Yeah, so Frank was talking earlier about like how if you're in Chicago, you pretty much got no excuse not to go to Lollapalooza. If you're in Nashville, you really have no excuse not to go to Live on the Green because it's free.
Right. I kind of liked it better when they did one day a week.
Well, I understand why they're not doing it this year because booking in the year of our Lord 2022 is a lot different than it was pre-pandemic.
True.
So I kind of get it, but hopefully they'll bring that back next year. But they had a pretty solid lineup. So it's going to be from Thursday, September 1st up until Monday the 5th. And they got a couple of big acts that are no stranger to Bonnaroovians. They got Sheryl Crow on Thursday. Yep. That's probably the biggest name. Friday.
They got Moon Taxi.
The Wild Feathers. I think we've seen them at some point before. That'll be cool. I know that our good friend Otta and Vincent are going to be at that Moon Taxi show. You know how they feel about Moon Taxi.
Guess what they got on Saturday?
I saw that.
They got Repeat.
Yeah, some other friends of the bus. They're the headliner on the 615 stage on Saturday. So if you're in Nashville, we're going to be gone. We'll be at Burning Man at that time. Please go see Repeat, and go tell them that Sharla and Daniel from the Roo Bus sent you.
Repeat.
Some other big names. I know that Brad from the What podcast is a big fan of Cautious Clay. He's going to be there on the main stage on Saturday. Santa Gold. A couple of big names. Sunday, they've got Coin. That's a big... Do a lot of these names feel very Nashville to you? Is it Coin from Nashville? Am I misremembering that?
I don't know.
Then Monday, a couple of other names. I got Yola. I know she's been making a big splash. A couple other big names. So, yeah, it's free. You got no excuse not to go. Go to that.
I don't know who Lady Couch is.
Lady Couch?
But that sounds amazing.
Lady Couch? Is a couch just for the ladies? I don't know.
I don't know.
Some of these names I've never heard of. Daniel Donato's Cosmic Country. That sounds like what we camped near at this year. I heard some Cosmic Country.
Wasn't that the barn?
Well, yeah. But yeah, y'all, please go hit up Live on the Green. Go have fun for us because we'll miss it since we'll be on our road trip. They do sell VIP tickets just between us and you. I don't think it's really worth it.
No, because it's free.
Yeah, why would you do that? Yeah. I mean, it's VIP already because you're in downtown Nashville. But yeah, also send all the bachelorettes our regards. I'm sure they'll be there in force as well. Hey, anything else for this week, Charles?
Yeah. Yes. Never go to the Taco Bell Cantina in downtown Nashville.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. We were so disappointed in that. Oh my gosh. Brooklyn had been singing the praises of this mystical Taco Bell Cantina that is in some towns. And there's one in Nashville. Charlotte and I went to it. The basic idea is it's a somewhat fancier Taco Bell that serves alcohol, which in your head, you're like, that sounds amazing. It should be amazing. I'm sorry to say it wasn't.
It was literally like whatever drink with an unmeasured splash.
Just
you could have brought in
drops of tequila.
Your own tequila and put it in your drink and saved so much because I think it was like the drink was like $12.
Yeah, it was kind of silly. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you to do instead. Go to the Taco Bell in Adairsville, Georgia. It's right off the interstate.
Yes.
That is a lit-ass Taco Bell. They have one of those little kiosks where you can custom order a burrito or taco and basically just make up something that's not on the menu. It's the first place I ever saw one of those because I stopped there to charge the car on the way to like Braves games and stuff like that. Stop at that one. It's not too far from Lord Taco. He lives just up the road about a half hour, 45 minutes.
Oh, no, where you got to go to is that Buc-ee's.
That Buc-ee's is absolute insanity.
In Adairsville, Georgia.
Just north of Adairsville.
And it's got a double pump thingy.
How many pumps?
There's got to be like
over 100?
No, excuse me, sir. There's probably about 240 pumps.
Listen, this whole Buc-ee's, I don't know if you've ever been to a Buc-ee's or not.
240 pumps.
A Buc-ee's is basically half the size of a Super Walmart, and it's a gas station.
Excuse me, sir.
What?
It's about the size of a Super
really?
Walmart.
They have very, very, very good brisket barbecue and a lot of good like snacks and things that they make. Just go check it out. Go try some of the stuff that has the beaver on it, like their custom stuff. It's so good.
I got my picture made with Bucky himself.
Oh, yeah. That one that we went in the other day, the whole store was like a mosh pit. It was just anarchy in there. I got my barbecue and some other things and brought Brooklyn a bag of chips and stuff, and I got out because it was just like, it was a little much. I've been in big crowds at Bonnaroo. Beaver nuggets. I've been in big crowds at Bonnaroo, but the crowd at Buc-ee's was making me a little anxious for some reason. It was a little much. But anyway, go check that out. It's better than the Taco Bell Cantina. Oh, hey, one last thing before we jump. I mentioned in a podcast a couple of weeks ago when I was talking with Brooklyn that we wanted to put together a Bonnaroovian meetup in front of the Parthenon in that big field kind of near Vanderbilt in Nashville. Still want to do that, but I think me and Sharla are going to wait until we get back from Burning Man because we got a lot to do. Brooklyn probably wouldn't care about me talking about this. She's moving, so getting her moved and helping her with that's a priority. And we got some other stuff we got to wrap up before we go on our road trip. But I do want to do that probably sometime in September. Wouldn't you like to hang out with everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll get back with you on that. Give us a week or two. We're going to see if we can plan out a meetup. We won't bring the bus because I can't even imagine driving that through downtown Nashville. Those people that ride those like bachelorette parties around and stuff over there on Broadway, they have more bravery than me. I could never do that.
Yeah.
There is a blue school bus that rides around on Broadway that kind of looks like the Roo bus, kind of, sort of. And I was like, look at this imposter. But then I got to looking, I'm like, I got mad respect. Listen, I'm the guy that drives the Roo bus. I could never do that. That's like stuff that happens literally in my nightmares. I have bad dreams about that.
Well, they have CDLs. They went to school.
I do not, because technically the Roo bus is categorized as a RV, is it not?
Motorhome.
Yeah. But so, yeah. Much respect to them. Go wave at that guy if you see him. But anyway, yeah, we'll do that sometime in September. We'll have a meetup. I'll get you a date before me and Charlie go to Burning Man so you can plan that out. We know a good taco place not far from there. Not Russ, an actual taco place.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be cool to have a taco with him there? Okay, Charlotte's telling me that's enough for this week. Thanks. Hey, this was a good episode. We got some good talks with people that know what they're talking about. We talked about Burning Man, some other fun stuff. We will see you guys next week. Get out there and radiate positivity.
Bye.
See you soon.